Hello and welcome to another episode from the water's edge, where you catch up with us at Reepham Fisheries on another experiment. I'm always up for trying a few different things, and I thought of something the other day that I wanted to try, and that is exactly what we're doing here today. So I'm going to concentrate on getting this fish in, the first fish of the session, and then we'll talk to you exactly about what today is going to hold. Well, there we go, first fish of the day. And don't worry if you're thinking my idea is some crazy 2-hook float rig. It's not. I've picked up someone else's line. I'll sort that out in a moment, but yeah, free float for me, happy days. We'll get this one unhooked before I sort that out, and then we will have the first fish to show you. A nice fish. Hopefully today we are going to be able to show you some decent fish. That is the plan anyway. The style of fishing that we're doing is certainly leaning itself towards catching those bigger bonus fish. So a great start. Only been fishing perhaps 5 minutes, so hopefully that's a sign of what today is going to bring. But I'll get this one slipped back and then we will talk you through exactly what we're going to be doing. Right, okay, so what I've been thinking about over the last few days, being someone who does lots of different disciplines in angling, is why do carp anglers spend so much money, time and effort on creating the most appealing spod mix? You know, they put these baits out and they wait for fish to find it for an awful long while with ultra confidence. And I want to know, are we missing a trick as match anglers as not putting his time and effort in with our baits that we're using? So today I'm going to be fishing a big carp spod mix on a match style commercial to see how good it really is. So I'll talk you through exactly what I've got. Now this is the mix that I would take to absolutely any carp venue in the country and be super confident at catching fish. So I know it works. So first of all, I've got some Hinders beaten Arna boilies, but what we do to these to make them even more special is 48 hours ago I boiled a kettle, tip some water over them, and then add a little bit of the boosted liquid as well into the water. So what I'm doing is washing them out, but also flavouring them at the same time. And what that now allows me to do is literally mulch these up in my hands into like a boilie mulch. And that is perfect because it's all different sizes. You know, some whole boilies probably even creep through, some gets really mulched up into dust, and it's making a really flavoursome pack sort of initial bait to the spod mix. So that's what goes in first. I'm going to mulch up a few of those. Like I said, I'm really not worried about how it comes out. That's the whole point of it. So that is ingredient one done. That smells amazing. I love that bait. Secondly, some hemp. I think hemp is probably the most staple bait in all of carp anglers' spod mixes. It gets used for pretty much everyone. Next, my favourite pellet goes in, seafood liquid pellet. Really good, like strong shellfish sort of smell to these. So for big carp especially, I think that smell is really, really good. So they go in. Wouldn't be a spod mix without corn, would it? I think I've done so many videos with this, and corn gets used in pretty much everything. And then just to put the extra cherry on the top, the beaten Arna food glug with a little squirt of that on top of it as well, just because I think then all the pellets are now going to soak in all that liquid and everything is just going to be really, really flavoursome. So mixing that together and showing it up to you here, I hope you can see it on the close-up, but I'll show it up here as well. You can see now that it's got all sorts of size different particles. It's got big bits of boilie, it's got some that's really dusty, and that just makes, for me, the perfect spod mix. So as I said, I would generally take this anywhere. I'd spot it out for big carp, you know, and I would expect to catch one. It's a really, really good mix. So it does take a little time to prepare, but as I said, are we missing a trick in not doing it in our match fishing? So that's the second batch I've just made up. I'm going to get back on the box and see if we can catch another one. well, straight back in and into another fish. And it is worth mentioning while I play this, those of you that follow our channel will know that I do like to experiment with things and see if I can just find something a little bit different. Now, I have already said that, you know, the bait we've got today, I haven't added it up, but I don't know, it probably would be 15, maybe 16 pounds, something like that, but it'd probably do you for 2 sessions. So there certainly is cheaper ways of doing it, but if I can find something that catches me a few more fish than the person next door, I'm all for trying it. And I think the bait is sometimes one of the most important things. So that is why I've come down for a pleasure session to experiment and to see exactly how good it could be. And I think where it would really come into its own is 2 things. One is catching big fish, because this is purely going to target big fish. And 2, I think probably my favourite way for years has been just ground bait down the edge. But when the margins get a little bit deeper than sort of 2.5 to 3 foot, it's not always the best way of doing it. So I've decided to fish down the margin today, and it is probably about 3 foot, so I'm not sure ground bait would be the perfect option. So this is why I'm trying it. Big heavy baits, all sorts of different variations that I can use on the hook, so it gives me loads of options. And importantly, like I said, it's heavy, it gets down there and hopefully pins down those big fish that are going to have a real feed up on it. So this one's nearly ready, and we're going to have another one to show you. There we go, second fish, and already I'm quite happy because both of them have been decent sized fish, which is exactly what I wanted to try and do today. I wanted to try and get a mix that would pin them down to the bottom in slightly deeper margins, and then see initially as well if we can put together some bigger fish. But that's a wicked carp. He's not very happy though. Sort of chestnut golden colours, and yeah, a proper weight builder that would be. You wouldn't need too many of those, but certainly a good start. There's going to be some more experimenting yet, I am sure, but we'll get this one slipped back and we'll see if we can get another. Another one of those chestnut coloured ones, and we are certainly starting to get a few fish now. Well, I must say I'm pretty happy with how it's going at the moment, but while we're out of the water I may as well talk to you about the rig and the way that I've decided to feed it. So let's start off with the way that I feed it. So at the start of the session I kicked it off with a big pot, and then every fish so far I've just filled up with the same bait in a toss pot in the end of my pole. So nice and simple, probably how I would feed most scenarios, to be honest with you. It's more about the bait rather than changing the way we fish it. Rig wise, I've got slick elastic in green, nice and strong. I've got 018 main line, and then I've got a 0.3 gram of a float with a thick 2mm bristle. Just helps me in the fact that I can see exactly what's going on. It's nice and positive, which means I'm not striking any false bites. And while I'm on that subject, I haven't foul hooked anything yet, and I think that's really because this bait is nice and heavy, it's getting down to the bottom, and it's making it really positive fishing. So finishing the rig with a bulk of number 8, a short 4-inch hook link, and I've got a size 12 hook and actually a little bayonet, because what I'm doing, if I bait one up now, is I've got some boilies that I've had soaking in glug for an awful long while, and staying on this sort of big carp theme, big baits, trying to get some big fish together. I'm just bayoneting on an 8mm boilie. I've got some 6s and 8s, but I've gone 8 so far, and that sits on there lovely. So my hook point is actually completely free, and that's what's no impeding hook point so far. So it's been really good. A heavy bait gets down to the bottom, and it has been really good. So I'm going to fill this one up, and I'm going to ship back out to the spot. So I've tried to fill the pot as much as I can. I think, like I said, this is really aggressive, so a nice full pot of that mix, all sorts of different sizes, and actually gives me plenty of options for hook baits, if I'm honest, because I've got four different styles of bait in there. I could fish corn, I could fish pellets, I could fish boilies, and it really could keep them guessing. But at the moment there's been no need for that, because literally it's been pretty good from the off, really. So I'm just tapping in that bait and then lowering my rig straight on top of it. Nothing fancy, I'm not lifting and dropping, I'm trying to nail it to the bottom. And I would say that, you know, I've fished this lake enough to know the average size of the fish in here, and what we've caught so far has been pretty good. We've had no F1s, so it's been all carp, and you know, I probably would have expected to probably had an F1 by now, and I haven't. So I do think this is probably angled towards and styled towards bigger fish. But if you've got a venue that, you know, those fish live in, and you want to be a little bit different to the person next door, it might be something worth trying. But I'm going to sit and watch this float now. I'm sure it's not going to be too long before we have another one. There we go, right on cue. Just sat there for a few seconds. Know there's fish there because you're getting the odd little line, but that's the importance of having that 2mm bristle, because it really does give the option of wait for it to bury. And the fact that these fish now are really getting down the bottom is such a good point, because like I said, I have touched on already that for years my favourite way of fishing down the edge has been ground bait, and then your hook bait is the only thing they can eat. But as soon as the water gets over, let's say 2.5 foot, it can create the issue of foul hookers, because there's absolutely nothing there to eat. They go crazy with it, and they're sort of in and out, picking up particles throughout the water column, and sometimes it's not the right method for it. So I mean, I'm not going to lie, I think I'd consistently carry on doing that in really shallow water, but this is already making me think quite hard about, you know, have I been missing a trick? Like I said at the start, have I been putting this bait out for big carp fishing with the utmost confidence, and then, you know, not even giving it a second thought when you're trying to catch fish down the edge or big fish on a match? You know, I know I'm fishing down the edge today, but this would work anywhere. You know, it's nice and heavy, it gets down to the bottom, so you could even fish this in really deep water. That would be just as effective. But I think certainly as long as there's a few better sized fish there, it's going to give me something to think about. Anyway, this one's getting right down underneath my feet. Another one for us to have a look at, and again another decent sized fish. Boy, calm down. And really well hooked. I like the bayonet in a boilie down the edge, because it's heavy. It's going to be sitting there in one place, and yeah, you get those real confident bites. Everything at the moment, you get a few liners, and then the float just vanishes and you're attached to one. It's been really rhythmical at the moment. Nothing's gone wrong. I'm not going to say nothing is going to go wrong, because sometimes you always get a few funny bites in fishing, but at the moment it's going really, really well. Yeah, and another wicked carp to build up some weight if you're in a match. He's nice and lively, so I'm going to get him slipped back, and I'm sure there's going to be another one out there for us. Well, there's clearly plenty of fish there, so what I'm going to do is just put out another big pot of bait, just because I want to keep that sort of creation of a bed of bait like I would if I was spodding it out big carp fishing, and try and make sure these fish stay nicely on the bottom, exactly where I need them to be. While I'm doing it, it probably is worth mentioning, like, of course you would catch putting anything down the edge. There's loads of fish in here, but you know, if I'm in a match situation and I've got possibly, you know, 20 people fishing against me here, and they're all fishing either corn or ground bait or meat or anything that, you know, is normally used on these match venues, everyone would catch on whatever you've done. But if you can catch 5% more, 10% more, it doesn't really matter. If you're catching more fish than the people next to you because you're just being slightly different, then for me it's got to be a plus. So yeah, I'm sure if you're a carp angler yourself, there's probably a reason why you choose to feed 3 or 4 different bait variations, size variations of particles, because it does give the fish a few different options and it keeps them guessing. So if you've got, I'm not saying you have to use exactly what I've used today by any means, but if you've got your own favourite spod mix, or if you've got a mate who's a carp angler and ask him what his favourite spod mix is, go out and give it a go, try it, see if it can be a little bit different to what someone else is doing. I think for me, I think the key here, the difference is the boilie mush is the one that I'm keen to try again, because certainly, you know, in today's fishing there's a crossover I feel between match and carp fishing. There's a lot of lakes that see carp anglers and match anglers, so boilies go in a lot of places and it almost comes, you know, it becomes like pellets, you know, they see them all the while and they really do like eating them. Like, well, there you go, there's a bite straight away. There's, you know, there's a sort of saying in carp fishing, you know, boilie munchers they call them, real big fat fish that love feasting on boilies. And I think, like I said, with the crossover and more sort of, let's say, carp anglers putting boilies in lakes, I think there's definitely mileage in this. So another one there, didn't take long at all. I'm going to get this one in and so hopefully we have another fish to show you. I am always one for experimenting. If you like, I think if you follow that channel, you'll see me doing cheap sumac baits that cost nothing. You know, all these things work, and I would say, you know, it takes a lot to do it in a match situation. You know, to be brave enough to try something completely out there and different is hard. So if you are like me and you like messing around with things, do it like we are now, a pleasure session. It doesn't matter if it goes wrong, but if it goes right, you know, you've got a real little secret to take into your next match and try it there. So be brave with it, try some different things and use pleasure sessions to your advantage. There we go, let's have a little look. Really good hook holds, everything's been in the bottom lip. I think because that hook is so proud and there's nothing masking it, you know, they really are hooking themselves nicely. So another one to show you, and again another nice fish. He's got a bit of ghost carp in this one, some wicked little colours, oranges and whites. Certainly a character, you'd probably know if you caught another one like that, but more importantly it's keeping that average weight up and it's catching bigger fish. Another nice common, and clearly a fan of the spod mix. Mouth on that. That's definitely the biggest one of the day. Well, there is another fish, and it has been a really good few hours fishing. I think I'm going to call this one the last one. It is due to rain this afternoon. I don't particularly fancy that, and I feel that I've learned or got the confidence that I needed from today's pleasure session. So I'm definitely going to take this into a match. Like I said, the average size of fish has been really good, and certainly when the water's slightly deeper, I think I'm going to give this a go in a match, and that's the real test. So if you if you fancy it as well, give it a go. Let us know how you get on, because it would be interesting to see, one, what people's favourite spod mixes are, and two, if they try it in a match situation, does it make a difference? So drop us a comment with that one, but I'm going to concentrate on getting this fish in, and we're going to have one last one to show you. A typical fish of today, another one of a similar size to plenty that we've caught. Loads of life in it still. Again, really well hooked, but we will sign off if it's going to behave itself with one last fish to show you, and another wicked looking common. But that doesn't give me an awful lot more to say, apart from obviously thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to get out there and give it a go yourself, but we will see you again on the next one.